Good evening and welcome to the show in the week when Ian Hislop was asked in The Independent if you had to go on holiday with Paul Merton or Angus Deaton, which would you choose and why? To which he replied, I would stay at home on my own. So that's a relief for us both. In the news this week, at his hotel room in New York, Mohammed Al Fayed prepares to go shopping. In the run-up to Crufts, the local news reporter asks dog owners for their views on neutering. And in Gloucestershire, Robin Cook buys a weekend home next door to Cheltenham Ladies' College. On Ian Hislop's team is a Channel 4 newsreader whose school report once said Snow has set himself low standards which he has failed to come up to. So he should feel at home here tonight. Jon Snow. And with Paul Merton tonight, a doctor who describes one of his most embarrassing moments as examining a patient wearing a pair of crotchless panties, although we've no idea what the patient was wearing. Phil Hammond. Round one kicks off with all the major groundbreaking political and economic issues of the week, beginning with Paul and Phil.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, someone's had a baby. Middle-aged woman's had a baby. Shock horror. The surprising thing about this is the good Lord Winston, who was supposed to be sitting where I am, but withdrew at the last minute, as fertility experts are wont to do. He said in the New Statesman, or predicted allegedly, that she was going to have a caesarean birth. And it was actually credit to Cherie for getting out, because most of the time you have 3 or 4 births. By the time you get to the 4th one, when you have a caesarean, they put a zip in. And now they're selling photos for £500 a pop. There's horribly sanitised photos. And I go, I'm going to pay £500. I want an action shot.
You can see the photograph that we have to now pay £500 to a charity.
Oh, that's where he's promising him privacy for the rest of his life.
Yeah, but to be fair, it won't be easy to recognise him from that picture.
You're right.
But Tony's good friend Lord Faulkner said Tony Blair is an expert nappy changer, which came as a bit of a surprise to people who didn't realise Lord Faulkner was still in nappies.
It's a pity the baby looks a bit like William Hague, isn't it?
That's a major scandal. Is the picture the wrong way round? Does it actually pin the baby to the wall by static electricity? Which is cruel. Don't do it at home.
And what did Tony reveal to the nation at the press conference?
Just a bit of chest hair.
His mug.
His mug.
Yes, his mug, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. I wondered if he was wearing a suit just before he came out. And they said, get that off and put on a denim shirt. Get the chinos on, come out looking new daddish.
Who was horrified at Cherie's choice of natural birth? Did you read about this?
Jimmy Savile.
Any particular reason why you chose him out of everyone?
I thought he might get a laugh.
It's the French, actually, who were horrified.
All of them?
This is Cherie Blair, who gave birth last Saturday, in case you've not been on planet Earth this week. Tony Blair is the first Prime Minister since 1849 to have a baby whilst at number 10, apart from Margaret Thatcher, who used to eat a couple every morning for breakfast. After a difficult 14-hour delivery, a drained Cherie told reporters we'd forgotten quite what an ordeal Labour can be. Yep, hadn't we all? Ian and John, your continuing saga.
Oh, that's our boys going in.
Well, they've gone in to evacuate everybody, but...
That's strictly a case for the medical profession.
But the evacuation is complete, but our boys are still there for some unexplained reason.
They've also sent a lot of ammunition over this week.
Yeah, they've sent over 10,000 rifles.
Yes, so that they could equip the children in Sierra Leone with adequate weapons to...
A lot of them didn't have a rifle up to that point.
So
Which in Sierra Leone schools marks you out.
Yes.
Isn't there another part of the story here, though, that it was said earlier in the week that they've run out because they haven't got any shells? When they have practice now, they shout bang. When they fire a gun.
That's what you used to have to do at school in the Corps. You ran around with a rattle, pretending it was a machine gun, going rattle, 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 rattle.
In the Corps?
Yeah.
Ooh, what, you let something slip there. What's that mean?
The Corps.
Yes, the Corps.
The Officer Cadet Corps.
At school?
Were you an officer at school?
Yes, at the age of 11, I was a field marshal.
Aren't things pretty dangerous around ITN at the moment? About 200 people evacuated this week, weren't there?
Yes, a cabbie had gone for sex, it says, on our bulletin board.
Is that possible? Sex on a bulletin board?
No, we
Get your
were
knob
all...
stuck in some blue tack?
We were all evacuated, and there was a suspect cab outside.
Right.
And when the cabbie returned 3.5 hours later, he explained that he'd been to a massage parlour.
Well, some massage, 3.5 hours. Yes, it is the war in Sierra Leone, and the news that child soldiers, as young as 10, in fact, are currently brandishing British-made weapons. According to one newspaper, there are 300,000 armed children around the world, and of those, 20,000 are in Sierra Leone. Thankfully, the other 280,000 are safely at school in America. It's also been revealed this week that the armed forces are drastically cutting costs after trainee sailors were ordered to shout bang instead of firing shells at aircraft, although the aircraft were presumably just RAF trainees going Paul and Phil, settle down.
Musical chairs?
Yeah.
Somebody says it's not a good idea. Like, he doesn't care at all. Look, he's in a world of his own. Somebody said that musical chairs is very bad because it encourages children to be very aggressive and over-competitive.
That's the Movement Disorders Clinic at Bristol General Hospital.
And Michael Jackson has just walked into the room.
Yes.
And that was musical statues, I think,
Yes.
which is a much less competitive game.
But in musical statues, if you're moving last, you're out, aren't you?
But you don't have to barge people out of the way, you see. It's the barging out of
Apparently,
the
the only
way.
way you can play musical chairs without encouraging children to invade Poland is to have the same number of chairs all the way through.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a chair, a lot of fun.
But I think the idea of musical statues is that people are able to express themselves and dance.
Yes.
That's the idea.
But when the music stops, the last person moving is out.
Yes.
They certainly are in my house.
You're schooled in the art of dance, aren't you, John?
Yes.
You've done a bit of dancing in your time. I'm thinking about the Hampton Court Flower Show in particular.
Heavens.
We may well say...
You know about that?
Yeah, we not only know about it, we can see it now.
There are tablets for that. And a couple of wrist splints.
But it's a bit hypocritical, isn't it, for Blair? Because, I mean, about once every 6 months in the cabinet, that's what he does. Just takes away a chair. And they all run around. Mo Molam, oh no!
This is the media frenzy over musical chairs, sparked off by a new pamphlet by child education expert Sue Finch. Despite the criticism of musical chairs, its defenders claim that the aggressive jostling for the final seat prepares children for the rigours of adult life, or commuting as it's known. And finally, in this round, Ian and John, your disaster area.
Oh, it's the Dome.
It's all about the ailing chairman.
That's a busy day at the Dome here.
But that's an ailing. Yes.
Oh, that's an ailing, is it?
That's an ailing, yes.
Yes. Well, he was told he'd have to resign if they wanted any money.
Yes,
He was the scapegoat, though, really, wasn't he?
He was the peerage in waiting.
Oh, right.
It'll be Lord Ailing, don't worry.
But it's very unfair. They've just sacked the managers, haven't they? Whereas the people who actually put the Dome together have got off scot-free.
Yes, but I think it's probably not about what they put together, it's what's inside what they put together.
That's what I meant, yes,
I see.
the creative directors, the Mandelsons, the people with the vision.
Yes, there are 3 ministers involved in the various boards that run this thing, but none of them seem to want to go.
No. Where does this cash come from? They're getting 29 million.
It comes
extra.
from other good causes. And it's important that the Dome should have more money and that everyone else shouldn't have any at all.
Yes, they have actually taken it from money designated for inner-city health and education projects, in fact, so...
Right.
Taking from the poor, giving to the piss poor. In a week when they've received less state funding than requested, had their chairman ousted and been given one last chance to succeed, the Dome's French boss, Pierre-Yves Gerbeau, said, "I am pleased with the vote of confidence from the government." Still getting to grips with the language then. So, at the end of that round, the scores are like the guests on daytime talk shows. They're the same as every other week, being as they are for all. And so to the muck and bullets of tabloid news, as slung and fired respectively by their headline writers, starting off, Paul and Phil, with the clone arrangers.
I think the government has allegedly given the go-ahead for certain cloning research to be done, and this always hits the headlines. It's usually followed by that ridiculous photograph of the human ear on the back of a mouse, and mass hysteria.
Well, thank God we would never do anything as stupid as that.
No, thank God for that. Yes. If my good friend Lord Winston had been here, he would have been very annoyed by this, because he thinks it's probably a very good idea. And if you can save millions of lives by, shuffling a few genes around or growing a few stem cells. So, for example, if Paul needed a new liver, you just take one of his cells away
and give me a mouse with an ear sticking out the back of it. That's what you're off drinking.
No, say there was a... You can mock, but if there was a stalker in the audience tonight and he comes along and he slices your ear off after the show, you're going to be happy for that. That little mouse has been carrying on your ear, and you could get a mouse to carry your liver or your kidneys or whatever you needed. The problem is if it's abused for cosmetic purposes. If you say your family had a Jimmy Somerville lookalike gene in its pool.
Nature... Yes, nature can be cruel.
Or you wanted to get rid of your mole, you didn't want to pass on that...
Or if you look like the Milky Bar kid,
exactly,
something like that. You don't know.
And that's the more likely to be. So actually, your mole, we need a mole update, because last time I was on and I mentioned your mole that it got slightly bigger and darker. We had a letter from a practice nurse who said that a patient had watched the programme, noticed his mole had got bigger, had gone to the doctor and found to have a melanoma, which was removed. So your mole has saved somebody's life. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
There was another medical breakthrough this week. I don't know if you read about this. A camera pill.
Oh, yes. They can see into the human gut. You swallow this little camera and you have a look round.
Yeah.
And then you can ask the neighbours round.
We can see it, in fact. Would you like to just explain that to us, Phil?
Not really, no. There's the sigmoid colon and the descending colon, the transverse colon right into the cecum. That little thing there's your appendix.
The little thing on the left that looks like a frog in a hammock.
That's right, yes.
I see up somebody's left a cigarette in the stomach, look.
That's right, yeah. That's the cannon. So the stomach's like a little bag for holding food, Angus.
Is it?
Yeah, and then there's the esophagus, and that's the liver.
Excellent. And who's been objecting to this week? There have been quite a few people speaking out against...
The camera or the cloning?
The cameraman.
The cloning, actually.
He says, I'm not going through all that.
The people from Life will object to it, because you need to use frozen human embryos. At the moment, you can only use them up to 14 days or whatever, and we're going to extend that, but they think it's killing.
And suggesting it's wrong for scientists to play God, I think, was the other thing.
Well, someone has to.
Robert Powell, normally, isn't it? This is the proposed government go-ahead for the controversial cloning of human organs. Scientists have already used the technology to grow human features on mice. There's one with a human ear, one with a human nose, and one that's very popular with the ladies. Ian and John, Mercury is rising.
I think, despite the fact that he's dead, it must relate to Freddie Mercury. He has come back. He's risen again in the form of some sound-alike character who
and
sings
want to be
on,
look-alike.
Have I got stars in your eyes for you?
So are you a big fan of Freddie Mercury?
Yeah, of Queen, generally, yes.
Oh, yeah. You play in a band yourself, don't you?
On occasion.
Right. What's it called?
Rare. It's called Foreplay. Channel 4 play, you understand.
Right. So they all at Channel 4? There's 4 of them?
Warm-up act, is it?
They're all there.
So who was this guy who won Stars in the Rise?
Well, I don't know what his name was, but I know he didn't look anything like Freddie Mercury, but he did sound remarkably...
Oh, he did. He had a moustache.
You can have a look at just how similar he was to Freddie Mercury. Here we are.
Yeah, maybe been tempted, Ian, to Stars in Their Eyes?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Which artist of all of them do you think would
Ken Dodd. Ken Dodd?
I was thinking of updating it and doing Fat Boy Slim.
We can have a look at some of the other contenders.
Oh, do we have to?
Yes!
Can you guess who that was supposed to be?
Frank Sinatra.
Very good. Next.
Lisa Stanfield?
No.
Buddy Holly?
Jimmy Henson.
Michael Jackson.
Jimmy Savile.
It is, in fact, Gloria Estefan. And finally...
That's you in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah. This is what we call a producer's joke. I wish I
But
didn't
you
know
didn't
any
have
more.
the excuse of being amateur, did you?
Talk about the pot calling the kettle black, you know. I mean, I admitted to just singing occasionally. But there you were right at it.
Have you been in the charts? Have you charted? We got to number 79.
We've held...
Is that actually in the charts?
Actually, you haven't quite got to the bottom of the answer. There was a scandal.
Oh, they said the phone poll was rigged.
There were suggestions. Yes.
Well, I'm glad you added that.
Right. Has been denied by Granada Television. The bookies smelt a rat when people started putting on £1,000 bets without even knowing what the odds were. This fix was known as the Fred spread.
That's what killed him in the end.
According to The Sun, since Stars in the Rise began, 510 stars have appeared on the show, or if you include Matthew Kelly, 510. Which unconvincing performances drag us screaming to the end of this round with, well, neither side having discovered the knack of winning, equal as they are on 6 points. Round 3 may have a slightly familiar feel, if it can get away with it. Paul, your odd ones are Geoffrey Boycott, Ken Livingstone, Prince Charles and Julie Andrews.
Now, the only thing I know about Julie Andrews, apart from the fact she's just been made a dame and that she was in The Sound of Music and she's married to Blake Edwards and she was also Mary Poppins and she was originally turned down for the film role of My Fair Lady, having successfully starred in the West End and on Broadway with, indeed, Rex Harrison as Professor Higgins. As instead they chose Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn,
the only
yes.
thing I know about her is that she's got a rose named after her. Because it's Chelsea Flower Show week, so it's got to be something topical. I think Prince Charles is some sort of flower named after him as well. I think Ken Livingstone hasn't got a flower. He's like, I don't want a rose. So they've had... I think... I am the Eggman, you are the Eggman, goo-goo-goo. I made myself laugh there for the first time since 1978. Jeff Boycott's got a rose. Yorkshire's a rose is still... There's that Lancashire, I don't know. Ken Livingstone's the odd one out.
Is the right answer. Do you know why we've chosen Ken as the odd one out?
Well, he turned it down.
No, he didn't actually. He has something else named after him.
He's got a
Shampoo.
newt.
No.
Shampoo? There's a shampoo called Red Ken.
It's actually rhubarb.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the answer is that they all have roses named after them except for Ken Livingstone, who has a strain of rhubarb named after him. Prince Charles' rose is dark red, Julie Andrews is yellow and pink, and Geoffrey Boycott's is black and blue. Phil, your dead giveaways are Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, Edward Elgar, and cocaine.
Well, Darwin went to medical school, so he'd never have abused cocaine. Was he snorting up a note? So it could be something to do with people on banknotes.
Ooh.
Darwin's they're going to use him on a banknote because they say his beard's going to make it difficult for forgers. Elgar's on a banknote, Dickens on a banknote. There's a few banknotes with cocaine on them going around the city. So Darwin's the odd one out.
Is the right answer.
Yeah, well done.
I think it's wrong.
Why?
What do you mean you think it's wrong?
Well, for people to take
But
cocaine.
don't you call cocaine Charlie?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Elgar's the odd one out.
Two of them are called Charlie.
3 of them.
The third is Charlie, and the other fourth
And he was
one-
called Eddie.
So Edward
Which is
Elgar's
hopeless.
the right name.
Is a much better answer. Cocaine has been found on 99% of banknotes, apparently, in London.
99%?
99%. Traces of
What,
it.
in your wallet or...
This is according to a survey by... Any
The
idea?
cocaine users group.
Well, it may be. It's called Newsroom South East. Edward Elgar was a great lover of football, and according to one historian, in 1898, he can be credited with writing what is undoubtedly the first ever football chant. The chant apparently being, "He banged the leather for goal." Pretty unmemorable, but still better than Jerusalem by Fat Les. Ian, your intellectual heavyweights are Henry Kissinger, Oliver Reed, Gerald Kaufman, and Mel C.
Is this about storming out of interviews? Kissinger got fed up when Jeremy Paxman asked him disrespectful questions. And didn't Gerald Kaufman, did he storm out on you?
Yes, I think he did, yes.
He did? Oliver Reed, I don't think he stormed out of interviews, did he? He sort of fell out of them.
He fell out of an encounter with Kate Millett, do you remember, at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, yes.
And then came back in again in a funny sort of way.
And has she
Yeah,
stormed
she's-
out of anything?
I think she's the odd man out.
I think that she did storm out of an interview.
Yeah,
I
she
think
has.
Oliver Reed is the odd one out.
She came
Is,
back.
sadly, the correct answer.
Ah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what are you going to do about Oliver Reed having stormed out of Kate Millett? I mean, he did go.
He either go, but then he came back. That's probably why...
So that makes him the odd one out,
Yeah.
because the others never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
He tried to snog Kate Millett, in fact, and it was taken off air for 20 minutes. And then when they rejoined the programme, he was in the middle of saying, "If you don't give me a plate of mushy peas, I'll put my plonker on the table." Henry Kissinger was responsible for the bombing of Cambodia and is a supporter of General Pinochet, and perhaps most incredible of all, recently said, "William Hague would make a good Prime Minister for your country." Although, to be fair, he was addressing the people of Cambodia. There's been some speculation in the press recently about Mel C's sexuality, but we've been expressly forbidden from making any reference to it by BBC Director General Greg Dyke. Oh, sorry. And finally in this round, John, Trevor MacDonald, Vladimir Putin, Tim Rice, and Clacton Library.
Clapton Library, is it?
Clacton.
Clacton Library. Oh, Clacton Library.
Clacton Library. Does that make a difference?
It does.
Right.
Because the one thing we know about Clacton Library, surely, isn't that the one where somebody brought a library book back after 60 years or something?
61 years, yes.
And paid the fine. Sadly, I can't remember what the book was, so that won't help.
Must have been a long one.
Hang on a minute. Rice writes words.
Right.
Trevor likes poems.
Good.
The library has books in it.
Yes.
Have I got there?
No.
Then I'm going to go back.
I picked Clacton Public Library.
Why?
All the
picked
others have
Putin.
had library
Putin
books which
is
they
our-
haven't
is
taken
our
back,
odd
and
man
Clacton
out.
Public Library is the only one that's had a book taken back to it.
Is the right answer.
Had to be that.
Tim Rice kept a library book on Eva Peron for 26 years after using it to research a musical, claiming, "I found it really difficult to get books on Peron." Not surprising when people like you keep nicking them. Which illiterate talkings mean that at the end of this sentence, it's Paul and Phil who are turning over a new leaf, leading as they are 13-8. And so to the cataclysmic finale of our final missing words round, a variety of half-exposed articles rent from their columns, including many, or indeed not, from this week's guest publication, the nothing if not inspired Catfish Insider.
Sounds like the end of a dirty joke.
So consider this. Yeltsin drank what, says Norma?
Like a catfish.
Lake Windermere.
Diesel fuel.
Number 10 drinks cabinet dry.
Not number 10, but somewhere else that's...
Checkers.
Checkers, yes. Checkers dry,
Dry.
is the right answer. During the major years, apparently, Boris was delighted to have the Checkers drinks cabinet all to himself, because obviously in previous times he'd had to do battle with Dennis. Next, live lobsters and a giant cod make what?
Lovely pie.
Good sex.
The final of Stars in Your Eyes.
A dangerous night at the opera. Next, all what are liars?
Fisherman and catfish.
Dogfish.
Yeah. Never trust a dogfish.
Dogfish.
All catfish fishermen.
All people who don't tell the truth.
Catfish fisherman is exactly right. And finally, the British Army full of what, says German minister?
Beans.
Full of beans?
Yeah.
The prisoners, convicts.
Convicts is the right
Soldiers.
answer.
He said the
Convicts.
British Army's full of people they've trawled the jails for.
Yes, it's true.
Rich coming from a German. You bloody dead nose. Twice. Once in 1949 and then in the replay.
Like 4019.
I shouldn't talk the war with somebody who used to be in the officer corps. Did you ever have your boots inspected?
Do you really want to know?
Yes. I'm fascinated.
For what?
It's not I want to be able to see Jimmy Somerville's face in them boots.
I heard you out as a war poet. Yeah. I thought you'd have been a conchi.
There wasn't an option.
Oh, the war is very bad. It makes me so very sad.
Siegfried Sassoon, that was.
I'd love to be in Piccadilly with some wench, but I'm stuck here in this bloody trench.
Wilfred Owen.
Yes.
Stands the church clock still at 3, and is there honey still for tea?
Rupert Bear.
Which collective garbage brings us gibbering to the end of tonight's wreck, with this week's no-hopers being Ian and John with 11, and this week's no-alls being Paul and Phil with 16. But before we hand them back to the authorities, the brief diversion of our caption competition.
High winds in Fiji. Are you from Pisa?
Men with metal genitals locate magnet on beach.
And I leave you with news that there's embarrassment for Prince Andrew as the valet arrives a little late with the royal hanky. At Broadcasting House, Greg Dyke refutes claims that Radio 1's technical facilities are out of date. And in Gloucestershire, Giles Brandreth opens his farm to the public. Good night.
If you're a digital satellite viewer, put your digit to good use by pressing red, then yellow to discover the manifold joys of the keyword search. Otherwise, press not a jot for another Have I Got News For You next.